Hey guys, welcome back. This is series number 4 in the Founder to CEO series that is focused on one of your 4 Ps, and that is your people. One of the biggest hesitations that I hear most often when I'm working with founders or talking to them about their first hire is that they're really worried that they're going to get pinged constantly with questions from their new team members, or that they have to hire someone who is super expensive and super experienced in order to not get pinged constantly by a bunch of different questions. And so that's why today we're going to talk about how you can set up your async communication rules and grant your team permission to operate autonomously so that you're not getting hit with 100 different questions a day. Look, always being available to your team, that does not make you a better leader. It makes you a bottleneck to the growth within your own business. So let's talk about how you can avoid that today. As I said before, this is video number 4 in the Founder to CEO series that is focused on your people. So if you haven't yet, I highly recommend that you go back and watch episode 1, which is focused on successfully onboarding your people, or episode 2, which is focused on setting up your system so that you don't have to micromanage your team, or episode number 3, which is focused on having effective one-on-ones that helps coach your team to actual performance. This episode here, we're going to talk about how to set up your communication agreements so that your team can really perform autonomously. Now, according to Daniel Pink, intrinsically motivated people are really driven by 3 things. That is autonomy, mastery, and purpose. And your clarity in how you communicate asynchronously, plus your ability to give permission to your team to operate independently, that's going to help drive all 3 of those things. So that's why this is so important when you hire that first team. It not only creates freedom for you, but it also creates a lot of freedom for them. Getting pinged constantly with questions is really more of a leadership issue than it is a virtual assistant or an employee issue. Most founders, when this happens, they feel interrupted. They feel like they're getting pulled out of focus. They feel like they have to answer right away, and they feel like they end up on call every day without creating the white space that they need to really strategically think about how they're going to move their business forward. And this actually creates a lot of resentment, not on just on their side, but it actually creates a lot of resentment on your employees or your virtual assistants side as well. That's why we want to remove this type of friction from your business as a whole. We want to make sure that you don't have any hesitation in hiring a VA, and that they know what success looks like in their role and how they can operate independently in order to achieve that success. Hey, look, guys, and if you need a little support in this, I host a free live training every single month. You can click the link in the description to get the invite to the next one that I'm hosting. I talk about how to help you free up 10 to 20 hours of your week and lay the foundation to build your $1 million plus business. When you operate asynchronously, which most of us do now in this remote work environment, your communication really has to be thoughtful. It needs to be batched, so it doesn't need to happen all day long, every single day that you're working. And it needs to allow for independent problem solving. Those are the things that are, again, going to create freedom for you and freedom for your virtual assistant or any new hire that you have within your business. This type of async communication, it really helps to give your team permission to think before they actually act. And that's what you need in order to build a successful business with a team that operates independent of you having to be in every decision. Now, when we're onboarding our new team members within those first 30 days, it is going to be a higher touch, higher frequency of communication time period for both you and for them. They're going to need a lot more clarification. They're going to have a lot more questions for you. They're not going to feel free to operate independently just yet, and they're going to need much faster response time. So as you do start to set the stage to make that first hire, you've got to keep this in mind. But after that 30 days, you've got to set the stage for them to know how to operate on their own and how to send you one consolidated daily or weekly message with every single question, and to create the agreement around how you will answer those questions. You've also got to clearly define what urgent looks like so that you know what you need to answer and they know when those answers are going to happen so that they can act upon them on their own. Now, this transition, it has to be intentional. It can't be assumed or expected on either side. You've got to outline exactly what it looks like and why. Again, if you've watched any of my other videos, you know that my team and I, we operate by what is known as agreements. So we remove those pesky expectations around what async communication could look like, and we get clear and define exactly what works for us. And I do it with most of my clients as well. And so our agreements look like how they're going to batch the questions, when they're going to send them over, when they can expect my response, and what urgent looks like, and how to ping me if something does come up that is urgent on their side. The agreements are actually co-created, so we decide what works for them, what works for me, and we define what it could look like for this to be successful for both of us. Now, this could look like you ask your virtual assistant or your team member to hold all of their questions and send you one Slack at the end of their working day, which could be the beginning of your working day in some cases. And it could look like you've created an entirely separate channel for those questions that are actually urgent. So you know when you get the notification on your computer that something comes through on the urgent questions channel that you need to go ahead and make time to answer it. It can also look like, in my case, I very often say, hey, I'm going to answer this within 24 hours during one of my 30-minute periods where, if I've got 30 minutes between calls, I can't get into any deep thought work during that time. So that's when I'll use the time to answer the questions there as well. Now, what I ask from them on their side is that they're creating an FAQ sheet so that they're not asking the same questions on repeat. Now, they can use that FAQ sheet to upload to ChatGPT or an AI platform so that they can get access to the answers to those questions at any time. They don't have to memorize them. But I do ask that they make that on their side and start to track the questions that they're actually asking. What you want to do in the future is to actually train your team that if it's not a key decision that you have to make, that they go out and try and seek the solution on their own. And so sometimes it looks like I point to different places within our operating environment that I know that they can go and find the answers to those questions. So it could be like, hey, go look in this folder over here. I think you'll find the solution that you're looking for or the answer that you're looking for there. So it starts to train them to go and do that first before actually coming to me with any of the questions. If you don't have that set up for your company just yet, it is something I highly recommend in the future. And again, you want to start to train your team to act independent of having to ask you questions. You want to start to give them permission to operate on their own and autonomously, because that's going to just create more freedom for the both of you in the long run. Now, many founders I work with in the beginning, they often feel like this is a cold response to their employees, but I'm here to tell you that's not the case. This is actually really supportive and it helps them to grow. You're not ignoring your team. You're really creating times when it works for you to actually respond. You are helping them grow, to help to find their own solutions to the problems that they're having. And you're modeling thoughtful communication techniques for them, both within your business and maybe at some point when they want to communicate with your clients. Look, delayed responses from you, they often lead to much better decisions down the road because your team starts to come up with their own independent solutions. And I can think of no better way than putting 2 or 3 heads together to come up with a solution to one singular problem. So don't think of it as being cold or non-responsive. Think of it as being supportive in coaching your team. When your async communication agreements are clear, the questions are going to improve in quality, and that's great for people all around. You're going to have fewer interruptions happen throughout your day and theirs. That gives you both more time for heads down work that produces better results in the long run. And your team is going to self-solve more often. You're teaching them how to problem solve, and I can think of no better skill to have other than maybe emotional intelligence as a person who works with other people in multiple capacities. Look, autonomy, it's not a skill that someone can demand or command. It's something that can be taught and built into the culture of your own business. But the longer that you continue to operate in this place where everybody has to come to you for an answer, the longer that's going to continue into the future, and the longer you're going to stick around as the bottleneck to your own business. Now, if you have set up clear agreements around how you're going to communicate asynchronously and it's still not working, then you need to ask if the system is broken or unclear in any way. You need to ask if the priorities are a little fuzzy. Again, if you've not been clear in exactly what it is that you're trying to achieve. Or then you need to start to ask, is it a capability issue? And if it's the latter, then we're going to talk about how to handle that in video number 5, where we're going to talk about when to coach, clarify, and when to actually let go or move on from another employee. But communication problems, they're usually rooted in some sort of clarity issue. But when you have been clear for an extended period and it's still not working out, there could be a bigger underlying issue at hand that you need to really figure out how you're going to resolve. Many moons ago, I had a manager, one of my first mentors, after I graduated from college, who said communication is the key to success. And he was talking about it in terms of the customers and clients that we were handling. But I really think it extends all around, and it's been something that has stuck with me for over 2 decades now. So just remember how you set up these agreements around how you're going to communicate. It is the key to success within your business. And if you want a little help in being able to learn how to set up these agreements successfully, then please join one of my free upcoming live trainings. They happen monthly. The click is in the description box. So if you click that link there, I'll make sure that you get the invite to the next one. But again, if you have not reviewed the other 3 episodes in this series, I highly recommend that. And then episode number 5 is coming up next, and it's going to talk about when to coach, when to clarify, and when you should really let go of any of the employees you've hired.